Hey everybody, this is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for another devotional. Shout out today goes to Paul Bennett from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Brother, thank you so much for using our studies online and for sharing our devotionals with the men that you lead. We can't do this without you. And by the way, if you're a man out there doing the same, you can let me know. Just let me know your name, first and last name, city and town from which you're writing. I will for sure give you and your men a shout out and even deliver devotional just for you. With that, today we're going to be in John chapter 11, verses 45 through 48. So this is for you today, Paul. It reads, "Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, that is, raise Lazarus from the dead, believed in him," that is Jesus. "But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done." In other words, they went 2 miles back to Jerusalem from Bethany, climbed the Mount of Olives, went back and told on him. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council, this is called the Sanhedrin, and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." So, regardless of how often I have read the Gospels in my lifetime, I've always found how people respond to Jesus quite interesting. There are basically two responses, right? Acceptance or rejection. Listeners either accept and believe and follow him, or they reject, ridicule, and simply walk away. But from this moment forward in the Gospel of John, we are going to see next level rejection from the spiritual leaders of Israel, one that builds into such hatred that it drives them to devise a plot to kill Jesus. But I want you to notice a line in the text today, the comments that are made by that religious council. Here's what they say: "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and then the Romans will come and take away our place and our nation." Now, the question presented here by them is actually a decent question. What are we to do? Is always the right question. The correct response is to accept Jesus' message and believe in him. But that's not the direction the spiritual leaders go. They move towards self-preservation. But to see how they are moving toward this self-preservation, you have to understand who this council is to see their motivations at this moment in time. So the council here is called the Sanhedrin. I've mentioned that already. And it was the highest judicial, religious governing body for God's people. There were about 70 members on it at the time of Jesus. At least we think so. This is kind of a guess. It was comprised of men with various theological beliefs, but not too varied, just a little varied. And they had different roles in the temple. Most of this council was made up of Sadducees who didn't believe in a bodily resurrection. So if you just think about the raising of Lazarus, they really couldn't understand that. And many of these Sadducees served as priests in the temple. Now, other roles on this council were people who were called Pharisees, who were kind of your scriptural experts, and they retained a powerful minority of the 70 because they were very verbal and outspoken. And then there were a few others who were like elders and aristocrats, so kind of a smattering of them. But they had an executive member who ruled this entire group, and he was called a high priest, the highest role in the religious land. But here's the problem with this group of people. During the time of Jesus, the Roman government had entangled themselves in the affairs of this Sanhedrin. They, of course, understood that to govern the region, they were going to have to hold sway over the Jews who dominated that area. And one way they did this was by getting involved in selecting the high priest. So Rome hijacked the selection process and chose a high priest who would do their bidding. And of course, he did. And this high priest held executive sway over the Sanhedrin. In addition, all the council members, that is the Sadducees and the Pharisees and the elders and the other aristocrats, were always on edge with this Roman government because of this. As we see here, they became far more concerned that Jesus and his followers might set off an uprising that would bring down the total weight of Rome upon their heads. And if this happened, they concluded that they would be in danger of losing their power and their position and their prestige, which was true. So, with the backdrop of that in mind, let's reread one line of our text again. It was the final comments. Here's what they say again. What are we to do? For if this man performs many signs, if we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. And the word that captures my attention here is the plural pronoun our. Listen to it again. It says, our place and our nation. They will come and take away our place and our nation. And all they're concerned about is themselves. They're not concerned about God, the Messiah, the truth, or the scripture that they study all the time. They are only concerned about personal protection and political positioning. That's it. They are worried about their power, position, and prestige. And now they're going to make decisions in that direction alone. So here are 2 admonishments for you today. First, true believers are never concerned about self-preservation. They're only concerned about the preservation of God's name and God's mission and God's glory. That's it. They are so committed to this that they're willing to sacrifice power and position and prestige. So the question is, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to give up your career and your title and your income and your security for Jesus? If not, you're self-preserving, aren't you? And second, these kinds of followers who don't self-preserve, who are completely abandoned to Jesus Christ, follow spiritual leaders who are also concerned about the same. Spiritual leaders who are concerned only about God's name and God's mission and God's glory, who demonstrate that they're actually willing to make big sacrifices, make bold proclamations, and give more attention to God's work than the butts in the seats of their churches or the bucks that pad their wallets. Guys, I love you. I hope that this admonishment weighs on you today. And remember, there are always reflection and discussion questions below these videos. I hope that you'll use them in the context of your life, in your group, to reflect on how you can drive this message deeper. And with that, I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.